reality from the consensus of the media. The media is operative. 9/10 of the media is operative. In other words, they open their mouth, they put a picture on it, and it's probably going to be fraudulent. That's not my opinion. That's a total of mass observation. One of the most important things to do is not get into these nonprofit groups that pretend to dislike the profit corporations, because the nonprofit groups are a veil and they're now commingled. They can make money, and they're moving fast forward very aggressively into the ICO system on the planet in terms of treaties and compacts, because these collaborators, like in Nazi Germany 1945, believe in what they're doing.
All right. By the way, I believe we've got Art back up. Art, are you back with us?
Good.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Art.
No, go ahead. Finish what you're saying there, William. I just got back on.
Okay, William, go ahead.
We understand it. And I can only summarize it that if you have a high-risk situation, you just call Infraspect. We're Infraspect, Nevada, and Oregon. And then we get into actually what's going on with a specific thing. It will involve ascertaining what's going on a spectrum of things, such as the media, such as the role of lawyers in your community, such as the public meeting processes, environmental hierarchies, what's really going on with your local environmental movement, what is the game it's on, what is the game theory they're applying. Then we understand what the source of the problem is. And at this point, go ahead.
I was going to say, okay, when I met Clayton, I was living in South Dakota. I am now in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. I live in Ayton County. I've gone and met my sheriff. That's the first person I went to meet, Clayton, and he is a constitutional sheriff, so I feel good about that. And I've met I guess in my community, it's a county administrator that runs who is hired, but then there are county commissioners or whatever, okay? In Texas, I had a county judge that ran the county. And I lived on Bolivar Peninsula, so I'm a Hurricane Ike survivor. So I know exactly what you were talking about confiscating land, because I was illegally foreclosed on with my property. But we won't go there today. I am grasping for how do I help us? I mean, I am blessed. I'm in a community right now. I've got 2 people that grow grass-fed beef, poultry, lamb, turkeys, chickens. I am going to be okay, but there's going to be a lot of people that aren't. And there's a lot of people being thrown into the situation I was thrown into 5 years ago. And so I'm sitting there going, how do I, as an individual, what do I do as an individual to, I'm tired of trying to wake people up because they're not going to wake up, but what do I do? You know,
you're doing exactly what you should. And
God, I've heard that so many times.
You know, and we have to remember one thing. The biggest danger, the traps, the pitfalls that activists face when they become activists is that they forget that they're going to end up becoming what they hate in an often circumstance. So guarding yourself and doing the things you're doing is very important, and you guard them. Mm-hmm. And you guard the community from very sinister kinds of end games that come in. And to do that, you have to be able to detect what's going on, and that's why we're auditors. We work with lawyers, scientists, all kinds of people. But nevertheless, we have to say, okay, what is the actual risk? Because oftentimes we'll see that the shock and awe is designed to make people think that the problem is way out there, far away from themselves, and that we have to go for the global this and the global that to solve the problem, to solve or resolve and provide a solution. oftentimes when you have a Delphi technique applied to a community, they come in and put a team in, usually handled by planners and change agents, and then they tell you what you should do, and they don't tell you what their principles are. They don't make a proper disclosure on how to help you. So the first order of business is very executive in nature, and that's to understand who you're dealing with, what is their game, what are their principles and objectives and goal values. Then you can come back and say, okay, here's what the community actually needs to do without that overarching intrusion. We have an intrusions profile document. It's 65 pages of questions. And what it does is it tells you what's going on in your community, A to Z. And we were compelled after 9/11, the big event, I was asked to go in and look at the documents that were being injected into the country after 9/11. And we came up with an 86% confidence interval that it was right out of Mein Kampf, the Nazi kind of thinking of inclusionary stuff. So once you've detected what's going on, then you will know who's doing it. Then from there, you'll know how to deal with the personalities in your community.
Okay. 2 quick questions for you, and I hate to interrupt, but because I am learning a lot from you, is number 1, how do I get that document to do my checklist for my local county? And number 2, this sounds like it ties into Agenda 21.
Absolutely, LICLAI, all of it. What we'll do is get me at auditor@infraspect.com.
Can you tell me auditor
at Infraspect, INFRASPECT.
Okay. And is there an email? And my name's Laurel, by the way. Yeah, and I will send you an email for this because, I want to stop it before it even starts here, if it hasn't already. Because, it's hidden places like Cheyenne, Colorado Springs. I mean, I've been listening to that, and we've got to stop it. But again, what does one person do?
Well, I can make a suggestion here, dear. You could make a donation to freeamerican.com and keep this radio show in the air. That would certainly be appreciated. It's almost like.
Will you take chicken eggs?
if you can figure out how to ship them, sure.
We are well aware of how valuable real chicken eggs are.
If you can figure out how to ship them, please.
Is Emerson still with us?
Yeah.
And go ahead, but Doc told me raise chickens.
Well, that's part of the self-sufficient family farm, and I've tried to tell people you could restore the whole self-sufficient family farm in your block, in your neighborhood. Grow food, not grass, in the backyard. Put the chickens in there to keep the insects down, and put a little bit of solar and a windmill on your property like we've had across this country for a few hundred years, and you don't need the banks or the government for much of anything then. All right, but I appreciate you listening, and we'll have links to Infraspect and everything up on freeamerican.com. That's INFRASPECT. Is that 2014, William?
Yeah, and the believability rating is a really important document that's going to be on the internet, and that'll be up in the next weeks, and that helps people to break the veil of deception.
Well, I've got. Let me just share. Go. All right, dear. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask. There's another one. Would you guys be interested if I could contact you to be on another radio show? and I'm thinking, she's my friend out of California. Something Thunder right now. I know her real name, but I don't know if she want me to share it on the air, Clinton, but I think you and her have talked in the past. But if you guys, because again, this is important information to get out.
Dear,
That's
my
good.
phone number. My phone number is up on on my page, on every, from Facebook all the way to freeamerican.com to libertyvillages.org. All you got to do is give me a call, and I'll be glad to put somebody on the show. I don't have next week booked yet, and we can certainly, I'm always looking for guests and knowledgeable people. So.
Well, I hope to be on soon, Clayton.
All right, dear. We can do that. All right, William, let me just share a little bit of this document that I've got links to, I believe. The Media's War on Truth. I mean, just the title really hits hard on why I do the show and what I put on this show. But you say the perfect law of liberty by the truth is preserved against the ruthless acts of despots and tyrants. During perilous moments in history, seeking the truth is extinguished by optimized institutional rationale. The interdisciplinary interdiction campaign against the truth is an assault on the senses of intelligent, intelligible beings, flesh and blood, man and woman, the sovereign, individual sovereign, political personality, the religious, philosophical, psychological, and lifestyle change agents relentlessly move to replicate their current dogma and alienate dissent, critical discourse, and well-reasoned disobedience. And it sounds like you got my life history right there, William.
It's definitely there. Our experience, no matter where Art and I have traveled in our deep field audits, this is not our opinion. This reflects our documented observations, and we'll continue to intensify our observations of spokesmen, spokespersons, and certainly the media itself and what they do and their methodologies. Certainly, the operative journals have honed their deceptive capacities to an expert level, to a very professional level, and this has gone on a long time, thousands of years. And we see a surge in it to kind of maintain the global idea of serial warfare. The other things that will be becoming very important is in watching people as they try to keep the public mind on the strategies and tactics and market-driven solutions in all of these structured conflicts. The capstone doctrine is real. That is the combination of the military-civilian interoperability programs. Those are written and perfected documents and are obviously used by agencies on a local level to an international level. It is important to comprehend that one of the biggest problems we have with the bar associations and the legislative deciders is that they utilize what is legal to do that which is unlawful. And that's really important. And remember, the policy is just a numbers racket. And somebody writes a policy, and then they push it to see how many people will acquiesce. The media watch corporations, peer review processors, expert judgment mechanisms, we say are all on the same page, reading the wrong book. Also, we have seen that sovereignty has become collectivism, while, as we say, the stakeholders are seated at the tilted round table of sinking pools. Notice we call that round table tilted. In other words, one of the provisional beneficiaries is dominant, and all the goodies roll down the table to that beneficiary. The more corrupted themes of media production go into conversational hypnosis, dialogue, discussion, public perception, group consensus. And these things are methods that are known to the many academic institutions and journalist society and so forth. Headlines, public interest, objectivity are all part of predictive programming. The editorial boards, the operative journals, journalists rely on keep it simple, what they call a bandwagon effect, community education, something we can all live with, and basically they prey on the status-conscious individual to go along, to get along. There's no question that there's a distinction that you'll have an editorial license where they will go 1,000 words or 1,200 words or something, while letters to the editors are very controlled and limited to 250 words in a lot of cases. And this is to basically make it almost impossible for the individual submitting person, the inputters, to do something besides a simple-minded or over-abstracted approach. The collective punishment, the media is really big on collective punishment. That means they label, they demonize, they actually do group defamation against people on a regular basis, and those words are listed on the evaluation or the ability rating system. So you've got, it's interoperable. It is very important to understand that the D5E military protocols of deceit, deception, distraction, disinformation, degradation, thought reform, all of these things are real. And you'll notice that the president himself has used the word, we're going to degrade them and destroy them. Well, that doesn't sound very principled to me. That sounds offensive, aggressive, and predatory. The reality is that we're always in someone else sovereign taking their assets, and then those become international facilities enforced by citadels and so forth. All of these things have proven to fail throughout history. The only thing that seems to stand in the way is a self-sanctification of any resolve or any media resolve because the media is definitely becoming more operative. Thank God for the internet, because that gave an alternative. The paradox is that the capstone doctrine has created a paradox in the media, and the paradox is killing the truth. It's killing individual standing, it's killing assembly, it's killing speech and freedom. Now, when you look at the collaborative process and you watch some of the more cameo kind of networks, you'll see that they're all speech encoded. Soft tools, fair and balanced, science is positivism, and basically they'll go all the way to intellectual quackery and the use of visual imaging to distort reality. The partnerships, most of the partnerships you hear about now on a global and local scale are fiat. They're fake partnerships. But it's really good for, be a partner, peer pressure kind of stuff. But most of these collaborations and partnerships are grounded in the spirit of confidentiality. That's their own word. Non-attribution agreements like the CFR and so forth, the Bilderberger Group, secrecy, and the worst is that the misprisons of perjury, sedition, and treason by attorneys is immunized. Now, this goes into when you're watching the Mercs escape prosecution in the serial warfare genocides. These are on purpose. These are not by mistake. And it's kind of a policy that these covert personalities will be immunized and released and discharged from any criminal prosecution or civil liability. And we have to watch very carefully, because the media, even as we speak, will listen to this and they will say, we need to start a campaign to get the people's trust back, because once this believability rating is out there and being used by the mass of people, the media is going to pick up on it and go, and I mean the journalists, the operative journalists, the covert kind of personalities, and they're going to go, well, we need to do something to get trust back. So they're going to use a process, what they call a reciprocal offensive, to discredit the believability rating, and it will fail. And the only thing it'll do is it'll substantiate their method. That's all. And we'll document that as we go.
All right, Art, do we still have you up?
Yes.
All right, would you like to add something to this? We've got about 8 more minutes left.
I kind of at a blank there at the moment. I'm driving. Sorry.
That's all right, sir.
Well, Clayton, can I interject and ask?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Clayton, can I interject in and ask another question? To the gentleman that was talking, I apologize, I don't have your name
William
down
Blair.
or whatever, but
that's William Blair.
My third degree's in law, but William. My third degree's in law, but I've never sat for the bar. So what's this about the attorneys? Because I saw something about how they are. I think there's only, according to this James Grist video that I watched, there's only about 6 senators and representatives that are non-attorneys at this time, probably even less now, that were called on to do something because they were not attorneys. So what's the big thing? I mean, because I didn't take the bar, I'm not in that secret society.
Mm-hmm. The brothers in the bond, obviously, what happens is you get into a situation where you have the branches of government, and these were the checks and balances branches on purpose. We had the 3 branches. And what happened was the attorneys came in and followed suit with kind of the royal court system of Europe, and they moved in on law. They changed the definition of law, certainly, to that was the advantage of the majority. But they started transgressing across boundaries that were very clear, and that is that an attorney cannot take a title of nobility. And there are several cases on this and several citations in law history about what that means and what are the consequences. And what we've seen is that the attorneys that are operating from the bar forget to tell people that their loyalty is to that profession.
Yeah.
When you have a loyalty to a country, a sovereign, a nation, that's different. That's a oath of allegiance. A promise of loyalty to a corporation is quite different. And what we're seeing used more and more is the professional code of conduct for attorneys, but the bar, people that complain about the bar itself are very wised up to what the bar is. The bar is the British accredited registry, administrative registry. And when you go back in and look at it for what it is very codependent upon a very prejudicial and biased conceptions of what the role of an attorney is. And what we find often is that, especially in plea bargain cases, the attorneys are really thinking about money. They're thinking about how much the state is going to be charged to keep this case going. We're looking at judges and attorneys very, very critically. We're looking at the grand jury process to keep the judges and attorneys away from calling the shots on grand juries. That is one of the ways out of this mess. And there are several types of grand juries and juries. And the grand jury that we're looking at, that it has a chance, just a chance, if we can get it out from under the dominant nature of the bar associations, would be a special grand jury. A grand jury is...
I'm familiar with that. I actually sat on a grand jury in Texas to do the purpose of, whatever you call them, to impeach, prove that Obama was not legitimate to be president. So, but so is that something else on your website I can go and get? Because I think that sounds like something else I can help do as a...
I have in front of me about a document about a half-inch thick on bar lawyers. And there's a document that we have produced over the years, it's a 759-page brief. It's on intrusions on community action groups, activists, and citizens. In that, it's a case demonstration, and a lot of it goes into how these things cooperate in the bar. And it takes a long profile on history to come forward to where the bar is today and what are they doing. In Alaska, there's controversies about the bar courts. The bar lawyers are simply making up the rules for the courts to serve their own interests, and there's a lot of controversy about this. And it's not just controversy, it's about wrongdoing. When you jump outside of the judicial branch of government and where you're supposed to be sitting in a constitutional frame of a court system, and you jump into a corporate employeeship with a municipal, you obviously have a conflict of duty and interest that starts to prevail. I'll give you an example. In a federal court case in Browning, Montana, Aerotop, the attorneys went into the courtroom, federal courtroom. She was summoned to appear there but was not allowed to talk, and her attorney, Cross Guns, was not allowed to say a word, while the judge allowed the other two attorneys in the room, one representing the tribe and one the county of Glacier, allowed them to demonize her and call her a bad person. No one was allowed to speak except them. Now, what was happening is, instead of there was a live controversy, and it had to do with revenue sharing agreements that were very secretively negotiated between the county, state, and tribe, and they're sharing tax revenues. In a nutshell, basically, they're taking away indigenous people's property under a tax deed sale system and government tax deeds. So they're taking it away, same thing you've experienced. But there was something that the lawyers didn't want and the judge didn't want everybody to know, and that was that there was no controversy between the tribe and the county because they were sharing a benefit by going against Aerotop herself. They got so sloppy in it that the court case actually has the appellate tribal judges saying there is no tribal sovereignty. Well, that's enough to remove the judges from their office right there. But that didn't happen because they're on the team. They're on the collaborative team. So really, their comedy and their agreements with one another between the courts really go to, we're going to leave the revenue sharing in place, and we're going to keep that money flowing to the bureaucracies, right or wrong. Now, this involves Keystone. This will go to right-of-ways and water rights and so forth. But really, it's a long, slow, gradual, slippery slope that people in this country are on. The only way out of it is they have to learn to become intelligible, not intelligent. They need to become critical thinkers again and actually discern things as well as determine facts and circumstances. That's what we do as auditors. We don't go into people's personal space and say, you're a good person or a bad person, as they did in the Aerotop case. So you're looking at an insidious level of planned participation in that courtroom. And nobody ever asked the judge, who are you? We have noticed that in this country, it's been kind of a propensity and a natural or abnatural tendency for the courts to go back to a royal court system. And that's why I mention it in the paper, the Royal Court of Public Opinion.
All right, we're out of time here, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, William. Thank you, Art. Bye-bye now.
You can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs on demand. Listen when you want to. TruthRadio.com. The truth is out there. All you have to do is open your mind and listen.
and knock it off.